YouTube. Welcome to another video by the Happy Woodworker. Today you're going to see a series that I did in several parts over a couple of days, specifically dealing with reshaping your tools, more specifically your turning tools. I bought a set from Harbor Freight when I very first got my lathe, and I was explaining in the video, I did a review on those, and I was explaining that it doesn't matter really what brand you buy, you're automatically going to have to sharpen and maybe even grind and shape your tools right out of the box. There is no such thing as a set of tools that's going to come to you that you're not going to have to do some kind of sharpening or shaping to. So while in the middle of doing a couple other videos yesterday, I finally got mad at my parting tool. I didn't like the angle on it. I felt like it was constantly fighting me, and I decided I'd had enough. I have another parting tool from a small mini detail set that cuts beautifully, and I decided I was going to try and put the angle from that miniature one onto my larger parting tool and see how that did. Well, I got to thinking about it, and I ended up doing like a 4 or 5 segment series where I also decided to change the angle on one of my skew chisels. So you're going to get to see a complete series on this, on how to reshape your tools. So stand by for that, and I will explain a little more detail what you're about to see with the parting tool. So my Harbor Freight set came with an end that looks like this. You're going to hear me discuss triangle shapes. The edge and the cutting edge and the angle of the bevel looks like an equilateral triangle. And I always felt like that I was having to push that into the wood and that it was fighting and resisting, even if it was sharp. So that's what first got me thinking, you know, maybe I should change this. Now my small detail gouge, as you can see by this image, has a much steeper angle to it. You'll hear me in the video describe it's like going from a 45 degree to a 30 degree angle, and this is what I mean between the previous triangle and this one. So in the next series of videos here that I've all put together for you, you're going to see me reshape my tools from that equilateral triangle to, I believe this is called an isometric. And that's what I'm going to focus on the first part of this. And then the second half of this video, I switched over to a skew chisel because I wanted to put this type of angle on a skew chisel. I discovered that there really aren't any YouTube videos out there. There are lots of cuts that you'll see for cutting angles and curves that people put into their skew chisels, but there's not a whole lot of talk about the angle of the bevel. So this video is going to talk about reshaping your tools and the angle of your bevel, and I'm going to do some grinding segments that you're going to get to see, and you'll get to see how I also sharpen and hone these. Since I don't use diamond stones, I'm a bit different than a lot of the professional woodworkers you see out there. Again, I'm by no means what I call myself a professional woodworker, but here goes. I hope you enjoy. Again, I filmed this over the course of 2 days. Through multiple segments, so I've put those together for you, so you are going to see some transitions. Enjoy, feel free to leave any comments, and thanks for watching. Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to another random video here. I was in between doing a couple of other videos, and I was looking at my parting tools, and I've got one that I like a lot and one that I'm not such a fan of. This one has, I'm not sure what the angle on this is, but it looks almost like it's a 45 degree. And this one is much steeper. And I kind of decided, you know what, I don't like the angle that's on this big one. I'm always constantly fighting with it. I'm going to give this a bit of a different angle, and I'm going to match this a little bit more, make it a little bit steeper, so maybe it'll cut a little bit better. So that's what this next video is going to be about. I'm going to reshape a tool for you, just for fun, so that we can see what it looks like when you sharpen one of these or when you're changing the angle or shape. Just because you get a tool cut a certain way does not mean you have to keep it that way. You can change the cut and the angle on these, and you know what? If I change it and don't like it, I can change it back. But there you go. You can kind of see there's quite a bit of angle difference. It's like going from a 30-degree angle on each side to a 45. So I'm just going to kind of mark with a permanent marker how much I want to take off to change the angle. And then I'm going to put it on a grinder. You're going to get to see that. And we're just going to grind this down to get an angle that I want. And then we'll give it a nice sharp edge and see what we can do with it. So we'll see you when we come back on the grinder. And so here is the continuation of that. I've actually already started. I did a test cut just to see how it was going to do. And you can kind of see I've got some marker marked on here for how much I want to change the angle on this. Again, if I don't like it, it's an easy grind to put it back the other way. So I've got my grinder out. I've got it secured down to my bench. That's the first thing. You want to make sure the grinder's not going to go anywhere, so make sure your grinder is secure, whether you're bolting it down, or in my case I use C-clamps. So I've got the grinder out. A couple other things to consider when you're using a grinder, particularly for something like this. You're going to generate a lot of sparks. If you've got traditional grinding wheels, anyway, make sure all your sawdust has been vacuumed up. Sawdust is very flammable. If you have it out, it will catch fire and you will burn your shop down, or your house, or your garage, or whatever you're using. Another thing to have is a little cup full of water. In my case, I've just got an old spray bottle cap that did not have a hole in it, because you want to try and keep this steel cool. So you want to have just a little cup to set your tool in, and make sure that it stays cool. A cloth somewhere off to the side to dry it. I don't know, that's a personal preference. I don't like putting wet water on my grinding wheel, but so you can see kind of what I'm doing here. I've got my little tool rest here at the angle that I want. I'm going to turn the grinder on, and off we go. And I'm using a pretty aggressive grinding wheel for this. A lot of professional woodworkers would look at this and cringe, but you know what? It works for me. Let's just do a quick right there. Now I have to straighten this out because that cut is awful. But you can kind of see that I'm starting to follow the line that I had set. The other side hasn't been touched yet. I'll even this out as I go. Let's hit the other side. You know what? I've got lights on here if they work for me. There we go. Does that help you see? Set my angle. I'm going to cool my steel real quick. I can see actual steam coming off of that, so I know that steel is getting pretty warm. Some nice cold water there to keep it cool. And here we go again. working my way back and forth across my wheel too. It helps me keep this wheel nice and uniform, and I don't have to dress the wheel as often. So I've edited it out and shortened some of the video just to keep this under 15 minutes or close to it. But you'll notice I'm just going back and forth evenly. I'm trying to keep the cut and the angle the way that I want, and by the end of this I am working on creating an even cove from tip to heel without grinding too much on the actual cutting edge itself. If you grind too much on the cutting edge, you're going to burr it and it's going to create a nightmare for you. I did this nice and slow in this video so you get the idea. You can be a bit more heavy-handed with the grinder once you're more experienced, and you'll actually give yourself a slightly better cut if you're heavy-handed. But for this series, I did very slowly just so you get the demonstration point to this. And we'll pick this back up with the skew chisel in the next segment. So this is where I'm going to cut and edit and stop part 1. Look for part 2 for this video series, and we'll continue, and then we'll test both of them at the end to see how they cut when we're all done. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and check out part 2.